you guys. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Coach Talk. It's me, Stephanie K, certified life and relationship coach, and Willie Johnson, who is also a life coach and mentor. We do these shows bi-weekly on Mondays at 11 a.m. So stay tuned and keep, liking and sharing our pages if you like what we're talking about. And so last week we talked about setting realistic goals. And this week we're going to talk about, it's like a continuation of the discussion that we had before. We're going to talk about setting goals in relation to your calling. Because a lot of times people think that when they have a calling that things are just going to fall in their lap and it's going to be easy and God is just going to part the Red Sea for them. And that is not always the case. And so that's what we're going to dive into today. And I hope you guys get something out of it. So usually Willie starts after I do the intro. So go ahead, Willie, and kick us off.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. So it's interesting how we were discussing how, the whole process of starting off setting a goal and kind of that whole concept of, we start way up here with the goals and a lot of times we have this passion to do something. And I think for a lot of, at least for me, we kind of, not, we don't leave out God, but I think we feel that we understand what we're doing, right? What we're going towards. Like, so we're setting our goals. And it's to understand, is this really the purpose for me to set it? What is the purpose in me doing this? So the first thing I would say is when we set that goal is we need to find out, again, what God has in that for us, right? So if I say, okay, I want to help people and coach people, and the first thing I do is like pray to God, like, how do I even do that? Like, what does that look like? What do my goals have to be around that particular thing, right? Because if I just say I want to go and do something and I kind of get ahead of God in what that calling is, it's going to end up in a failure. And I've done that many times. Like, I'm gonna start this business. I'm gonna do this business. So many people have all these things that they try to do and they end up kind of failing because I think we don't take the time to see what God's will is in that goal, right? What is his meaning for me to do this? And also, what are we feeling inside? Because a lot of times things around us are glorified in certain aspects. Like, everybody wants to be the next, TikTok star. They want to be, they're doing all these things because it's glorified, but sometimes your goal, your calling, your purpose may not be that flashy thing. But it has a purpose, though. It doesn't, everybody can't be the, you're Cleveland, I love sports. So everybody can't be the wide receiver, right? In football, you got the kicker, you got the punter, you got the snapper, everybody has a purpose on that team. And their purpose is so important. It doesn't, one doesn't work without the other. We're saying we're all we're all branches from the vine of Christ, right? So your branch is different than my branch. Everybody has a different branch. So sometimes we look at everybody else's branch, right? We look at, well, this looks exciting, that looks exciting. So we start off on that path without, I think, identifying with God, like, hey, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Because then we end up, that's why I think a lot of people start and stop stuff. You hear from, I started this, that didn't work out, or this person did that. We always find blame and everything. But I think most of it is because we did not identify with the creator. Like, hey, what am I supposed to do here? Yeah, this might not be the flashiest job, but somebody has to do this part. Somebody has to do that part. We all can't be up front. There's somebody in the back, So I think the way I look at it is that is the key in finding out what we're supposed to do is identifying with God. And then what are those passions within you? What are those things? What are you going to say?
Well, I had a question because, it's like I'm interviewing you, but it's fine. So what would you say to, like, because everything you're saying is like really, really important and it branches off into so many different areas. And so my thinking is like for somebody watching this and maybe like they don't even know what they're like, because you're saying people start and stop stuff and they go into this and they think they're supposed to do this and do that. So in your understanding, how do you identify what your purpose is between
Right.
all the other interests and stuff that people have.
So one of the first things I do, because I talk about this, is when I'm speaking with someone is, and we've talked about this, either certain people know what they kind of have this, hey, I prayed on this. This is what's pulling me. So we work with them a different way. Then you have those ones that go, I really don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I don't know. So there's all this, I'm confused because everybody's telling them to do this, do that, but they don't feel it, right? So the first thing I do is I have this spreadsheet. It's called it's a deep search. It's a deep search within. And I tell people, take your time on this. Take a couple of days, and this is where you need to be 100% honest with yourself, right? I mean, 100% honest. Where are your strong points at? Where are your weak points at? What are you drawn towards? What gets you excited? Because sometimes some of the stuff that we might think is exciting and great, and because I go to this conversation with my teenage daughter, she's like, "Oh, this is great," and I go, but I have to catch myself. Go, that's not for me. That's for her. That's what God put in here. So I said the first thing is to identify that from in here. I think all those desires, all those passions, all those things that when you go back and you look at something that you did as a child that you constantly did, and you go, that's weird. Yeah, your mom said, yeah, I like to write about things. I just had a different look on something. I would always write, and I'm reading, it's like, that's how you can identify what's been planted in you. I think we just outgrow it because society, everything around us we're stimulated by all these other things. And so I think we lose identity with what was implanted us. So sometimes it's a matter of going back, taking time, dissecting what we're feeling, what makes us excited. What did you do a lot when you were a child? What did you like to do? Did you like to draw? Did you like to paint? Did you like to read, sing? Whatever it is, there's something there. I think we just get away from it, right? Because we grow into the world
adults, and we have responsibilities and bills and all type of stuff. Yeah. So absolutely. And I think what you're saying kind of connects to what we were talking about in the last video about seeking, because I think some people have this. Now you do have some people, like you said, who know right away what they're supposed to do. And I'm one of those people as far as when it comes to writing. I knew right away I wanted to be a writer. I started writing as a kid. It was never any question. But some people don't know right away. And I think it can be discouraging for some people, but it connects to what we were talking about in the last episode about seeking. Like sometimes you have to seek these things out, and it doesn't mean that they're not yours or it's counterfeit or something is wrong. I think sometimes God may not tell you because he knows that the process of seeking is going to refine you even more and kind of and help you understand more what your path is than if he just kind of told you what it is. And so people are going to have different paths to get to their purpose or their calling. So you can't really model somebody else's journey after your own journey. And you should also not get discouraged when you actually have to put some work in and seek what it is that you're doing, what your purpose is, like you're saying, find out, question yourself, look within, look back in your childhood, things like that. That's going to refine you also. So I think that's like really, really important.
Right. Because what happens too is part of this, what we're saying, like, it's not going to always be easy. We think that if it's easy, that must be it, right? Oh, that this is super easy. And you're right. That's not always the case. Sometimes I believe that you're in certain situations, then you say, okay, I'm heading this way. I feel like this is what I should do. And maybe you don't get the job, but that's all character building around it. That doesn't mean that it's just going to open up as soon as you decide, this is what I want to do, right? So you can't just fall back on the first sign of failure, right? That's strength and character, that's building all that. And I think the biggest part of that is that if it was made so easy that we go towards it, then we may feel that we don't need God to direct us, right? Oh, this was easy. I did this.
Yes, absolutely.
I was writing this other day. I said, matter of fact, I had it said, when it seems impossible, when it seems outside of your realm of capabilities, that's when you know it's God.
Exactly.
when it's big enough, and if you go, oh, there's no way I can't do this, but you feel the passion to do that, and it almost makes you sound weird when you say it, to someone and they kind of they say, because when you say that dream, if it's big enough, if God's involved in it, then it's gonna sound weird. People are gonna be like, oh, something's wrong with them, you know. But it should frighten you, right? It should scare you to know that, right? So you want to kind of stage it that way. So it shouldn't be super. You shouldn't go, oh, the first time I got this is my dream. This is it. This is my purpose. That may just be a season for you. You know?
That's again really important because I think a lot of times, well, two things. Number one is like what you're saying about your purpose is that you can get off track and get, influenced by other people or, life, kids, stuff like that. But one way you can know what your purpose is something that you can't really completely let go of. Like it's always in the back of your mind. And so you may like move on to other things, but it's almost like if somebody was to ask you, oh, if you didn't have bills and all this type of stuff, what would you do? That would be the thing that you would say, yes, absolutely, I would do that, even though your life may seem further, as far apart from doing that as possible. And another thing, like what you're saying, as far as like when God gives us, plants that thing, because when he created us to do something, it's not going to be something that, again, you can easily forget. And he does give you a vision of what that thing can become. And sometimes because it seems so big, that will be a reason why you just kind of put it off, or you like, oh, I can't do that, or you think you don't have the resources or the talent to give, but he gives you that dream. He plants that in your heart so that you can start reaching for it. Like if he, like I watched, I can't remember how many pastors I've heard say this, but they were saying like, if God told them all the steps that it was going to take to get to the vision that they had in their head, they probably would say, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, they pass out, faint. They would.
Exactly. But because he gives you the dream, it creates kind of like that desire and that thirst in you to reach it. But that does not discount all the steps and things that you're going to go to get there. And so even with us, because we have these dreams, we have a tendency to just focus on the end result, the dream that he planted within us,
right,
not the steps that it actually takes us to reach that.
Right, because that's where in those steps, you like you said, you see that vision 100%, and through that's where the discipline comes, right? Because we see that's where the discipline comes. That's where the faith comes. So it's almost like I'm gonna show you a little bit of something, and that's that faith. It was almost that hope. I always feel like a lot of kids around Christmas time, it's that hope of getting something, right? They have a strong, and that's why I say we have a childlike faith. Sometimes if something's big enough, that's the kind of faith we have to have. It's like, I've seen enough of it. I have that hope that I just don't know how. I don't know where it's going to come from. I don't know how to get there. But that's not what he wants you to worry about, because if they focus on keeping him in that role, like you said, in that goals, then we'll be able to continue to build. And every time we build, we get disciplined. We start to get more focused, and we start to get confident. We start to believe it. As long as we keep him at the center of that, then we're fine. We cannot remove him from the center of that, or we start to think that it's us, right? We start to have that pridefulness that I'm doing this sort of thing.
And and not only that, because he's, like you said, he's always going to give you something bigger than what you can do on your own. Like that's absolute. But when you like kind of leave him out of that process, you can even start feeling like you don't necessarily, you start seeking these things out of like, I guess it goes back to what you're saying, your motive. Like you start seeking them and this dream that he gave you for the wrong reason, and you get way off course. And instead of this thing kind of creating character and discipline and teaching you all these things along the way, it ends up becoming something that kind of pulls you further away from God.
Right. Where you start ending up going, oh, that can't be my calling or my purpose because, this or that didn't work out. It's because you took your focus off of him. The attention has to always him, because that purpose is around him. I think in some form or fashion, I believe that anything of anyone's purpose has to have some form of serving, right? Some form serving, even if it's in a talent, right? Maybe you can sing, that's serving. People get joy from your singing, or maybe it's in your writing. You know, you're writing, you're still serving, you're still doing something that you have in you that you're giving out.
Mm.
Right? And it's not for you. I think when a lot of times we go towards something, our motives, like you said, is because we're looking for accolades, we're looking for financial gain, where it's we, me, what am I getting from this? Instead of saying, hey, what am I doing for someone else? What is this helping them in their lives or bringing them joy? Those are the people that get that. You know, you hear people say, oh, got the fulfillment of having people applaud when you do something, or accolades, thank you, you know, not even money, just to someone to say thank you. I really appreciate that. Like when I get a message or someone says, hey, that was hit home for me, or it was just on time, I was struggling with this. There's nothing involved in that other than them saying thank you. And that is like, that's fulfilling. And I would do that. What do they say? If you would do it, if there was no money involved, would you do it? Yep, 100%. All day would do it.
Yeah. And I mean, it kind of goes to what you were saying about the world, and all these things that surround you. They kind of can contaminate your purpose, because your purpose can get contaminated, which is basically what we're saying. And then because success and money and fame and, you know, all this kind of stuff infiltrates the original desire or passion that God gave you, when really, like what you're saying, Willie, it all boils down to like serving others, you know.
Right.
And so when we start measuring success and our ability to reach our calling based on how much money we make or how much fame we have and things like that, that can easily also, you know, take you off track as well. And you don't, any way that you fulfill your purpose without God is not going to have the same ramifications that it would if it was with God. So if you can do 10% by yourself, if you partner with God, you can do 100%. And so you're kind of limiting your own self and your own potential when you don't align what you were created to do, or you get off track of what you were created to do away, and when it goes away from God. So yeah.
Right. Because the purpose, like I said, with the money, that's how society measures everything. You know, we measure Instagram, all these sort of by how many likes, by how many, but is that impactful? Is that really, you know, I talked about this the other day, is it impactful or is it impressive, right? It looks good because everybody liked it. You have, you know, 1,000, 2,000 followers because they like it. It's impressive, but is it impactful? Are they going to remember that in 5 years, or is this something that could help them change their life? Most of the time it's probably not. Most of the time it just looks good.
Yeah.
Good, fun, it's exciting, but is it something that they're going to remember? And impact and purposeful things of serving like that, those take time. Those take consistency. Those, even when there's nothing fun to talk about, those are the things that, hey, we all have struggles. We all go through stuff every day. You know, I was thinking on my way home, like the competition is with yourself, right? So if you can exclude everybody else and, God, what am I doing? How do I get better? How do I continue to grow and stop worrying about everything around us? Then we halfway there. As long as we keep our attention on Him, we will learn those things, you know, because He's going to provide the how. I said we got to just have the will. We got to just be willing.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody, because I kind of had this issue for some years. Well, not really an issue, but anyway, what would you say to somebody who has a calling that is, they feel a calling towards something, but it doesn't seem like something that they can get an income from, but they still need to go to work and have an income too? Like, how would you, in your opinion, how would you balance that out if your calling is for serving?
Right.
You can't get an income from it, but you still have to go to work and you have like other responsibilities that you have to take care of too.
Right. So for me, and I think about this a lot, and I hear people talk about this, is that at the end of the day, it's about happiness, right? And joyfulness, because we could think about tons of people that go to work, don't like the job, complain about the job, this about the job, don't like the people at the job, you know, so all these other things, but yet they say, but I can't do this. But then my question is, well, why can't you? Why can't you figure out what it's going to take to live from what you have? Because you have to sacrifice something, right? So there's something where you want to sacrifice because I'm gonna keep working this until this happens. That's probably not gonna happen. So what are you gonna sacrifice? Does it mean you take a lesser paying job and then you really see if there's something there? Because maybe the purpose thing is not the income. Maybe you stepping into that purpose and walking toward that, all of a sudden someone comes along and says, "Hey, I like what you do here. I have this company. Can you come do this for me?" So you try to say, "Well, maybe I can't do this purpose for my own and make an income." But if you step out into that, gotta put you in a position where someone else, something will come along. You'll get a call, you'll get an email, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, I was doing this thing and it wasn't going to, draw on my own." Not gonna draw income on your own, but you're gonna be in a position. So I would say, don't make excuses for it. Right? Excuses, oh, I have to work. Okay, well, if you're not happy in that job right now, you're probably gonna stay there another 20 years and still be unhappy. So what do you want to sacrifice? You want to sacrifice that job and say, "Hey, I'm gonna go down to parts." Talking to someone this the other day, she's like, "I'm gonna go down. I part-time job, work less time to work on my business on the side because I'm happy there and I'm not so much focused on, oh, well, why would you walk away from your job? Because I'm not happy. And if I die or if I go soon, I'm gonna be disappointed because I never took that chance. Just try to find the happiness and have faith that if this is what I'm supposed to do, God's gonna take care of me, because He's not gonna put you in somewhere where you're not gonna be able to take care of your family.
Exactly.
He's not gonna do it.
Exactly.
So it's that faith to just, like, say, what do you say, step out of the boat.
Yeah.
It was fine until you start looking around at the water, and then
exactly. So I mean, I think that kind of segues into another important topic, which is like, people, I know I did this, and so I knew I was called to be a writer from a very young age. When I didn't even know God, I just knew I had a passion for writing, and it just automatically, it kind of became into focus for me when I became a Christian, because it's like, oh, that's why I have such a passion for writing, and I've been having this since I was a kid, because it has something to do with my purpose.
Right.
And I thought that, I went to school and I studied very hard, and I even finished school late, but I hung in there and got it done. But once I got done with school and I was ready to, publish my book, and I put the work in, I was very, very surprised that it was not easier to get stuff done. And it really made me question a lot of the times, was I wrong? Like, why is this so difficult? I thought this was my calling, and I kind of put the work in here. And so why is this not a little bit easier than that? And so I had to learn that just because something is your calling does not mean that it's going to be easy. And so did you go through that, or did you have any experience with that?
Oh, probably a good portion of my life. It's like, why am I, I always felt like there was something more I wanted to do, but I was doing something. I just thought that was it. Right. So you keep going, and I never could keep going far enough. And then I think we talked about this. And then when we got into this pandemic, things kind of fell apart. There was just all this sense of like, oh, people need help. People need people to encourage, and people need people to inspire, and people need to believe in something, because everything they believed in fell apart. Right. So it was just like all those years of being in the hotel industry, of talking with people, of coaching people, of guiding people, encouraging them in that environment to excel. Always would find the problem. It was almost like I was drawn to someone that had a problem or had an issue. Always, this person had a drinking problem. This person had a pill problem. Like, I worked with those people. So I was doing the work all those years. Right? All those years. So because it wasn't time, because there wasn't a moment, it's almost like you get prepared for something, right? So that's another thing. Purpose. We look at, like you said, I wrote the book, it didn't happen, it wasn't easy, but all that prepared you to be here. So that doesn't mean you're not going to go back to the book. That doesn't mean anything. It's just all preparing you. So we can't just look at it and go, that didn't work. It did work because you're using it. I would just say that it's not always identifiable as the one thing. It's just, and we're learning all this stuff, and we have to look back and reflect and go, that's what he was trying to show me. That's what he was to me.
Yeah.
Because we think that we see the answer, and then it's like, oh, that I never really made it. I thought it was going to be this big hotel and, working in these corporate offices. I kind of just stayed high enough, because if I feel like if I would have got into that, then I couldn't do this. Be here, I would be so far outside of that realm. So it was almost like, God had that. He's going to guide you. You just have to trust him. And so instead of going, why is it happening now? It's like, oh, it's happening now because I wasn't ready. It wasn't ready. So you might be ready to write that next novel now. Now you.
I mean, I'm still working on my stuff now. I should actually have my third book in my series out in hopefully in a month or so. The kids are getting out of school soon, so I'll have time to really get there. But it has been a very slow grind, and I really had to learn to be okay with that and understand that, because so God puts this dream in your heart, and desire is very, very powerful. And so you really, really want it. And you see yourself on top of the hill, like the best. And you don't think about all the mud and weeds and stuff you got to go through to get there. And so a lot of times that impatience comes from, I don't want this. I want the thing that I saw. I don't want this part of it. I want the end. But that God gave you that to help you make it through those rough time, for you to have something. I think the Bible says, without vision, the people perish. So he gave you that vision to keep motivating you and pushing you forward, because he knows that it's going to be a bumpy road. And so, but for him, the bumpy road is really where you're made. Like, it builds characters, builds patience, it builds knowledge, it builds, a lot of things in you that need to be addressed, so that when you get to that place that he gave you the vision to have, you can actually handle it maturely and responsibly, and not fumble it, for all the reasons that we can fumble stuff. And so we have to really get more comfortable with the process, and not always looking at the end results and how we're going to feel and what we're going to have and what we're going to do, because that's a very, very small part of the picture in comparison to the whole process.
100%. You nailed it right there. We don't the patience. It's all about having the patience. We have to say, if this is really a passion or a calling, then I have to be willing to say, I could put 5 years, 10 years, whatever it's going to take, because it's not about instant. Everything around us is so fast. Internet's fast. Text this, we tweet that, so. But when it comes to purposeful and building, it was the black bamboo, right? That thing planted down for 6 months, and water, and nothing. Looking at the guy, what you water, nothing, and all of a sudden, boom, toss them out. But that's the patience. So what do we want? What are we willing to sacrifice? Right? What are we willing to trust and believe that we're in line with God? And then we just do the work.
Yeah, because a lot of the time, what is holding up you from getting there is what you just hinted at, is yourself. And so God is not going to graduate you or let you move to the next level in the process if you're not getting the baby steps. And I mean, I'm sure I've used this analogy when we did videos before. But so if you tell your kid, hey, as soon as you turn 25, I'll buy you a brand new whatever, and the kid is just so anticipating getting this nice new car, but they're not thinking about the fact that they have to drive the car, they have to learn how to drive the car, they have to take care of the car. And so all this preparation goes into, okay, now that you have the car, not only can you take care of it, but you will appreciate it and value it that much more, because you put some skin in the game and made sacrifices, like what you're saying, to have it. And so we as people, we really are short-sighted when the way God does things, and we just have to be patient and trust the process and understand that if it seems like it's taking a long time, like you said, it's because you're not ready.
Yep.
You're not ready because God is just saying, oh, you're not ready. It's because no, you're actually not ready. Like, you need to grow, you need to mature, you need to learn, and you're not doing that. So if you want to speed it up, you gotta say, okay, God, what is it? What are you trying to teach me? What are you trying to show me? stop resisting the process and kind of, you know, go along with it and let him make you into a better, stronger, wiser, you know, all around person that he's trying to make you into. So absolutely.
Like it. I think we nailed on that. I think we might have even gotten to the next one. So I know we're gonna roll over into the next one. But no, I think we nailed it. I think you could close us out. We might start preaching in a second.
Right. I mean, even when we have these conversations, Willie, you know, sometimes people, as coaches, of course, we know these things, but it's always good to go over the basics because it's even encouraging to me, you know, because sometimes even in the process of trying to build my coaching business and, you know, write my books and things like that, of course, I sometimes get frustrated and I feel like it's not moving fast enough. I'm putting a lot of work in and I'm not seeing it. And so it really helps to even have these conversations with you to remind me even of the bigger picture and what's important and what God is doing in the process. And so these conversations help me also. So it's
and ditto, I copy that too, because I can't tell you how many times I just go. I was even thinking yesterday, it's like, this is just why. But then, you know, then there's that something that's when you know it's that desire, and when you say, okay, I'm gonna pray, I'm gonna go to bed, and that spirit comes on you and say, that's okay, I'm gonna start over tomorrow.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna do something better, 1% better somewhere. And that's all building. Because you got to build you up to take that gift or whatever it is out into the world. You're right. We're not ready. So I think next video we're going to talk about dealing with that frustration, because I think that's where a lot of people just give it up. They say, "Oh, this isn't working."
Exactly.
God gave me a wrong vision. This isn't it.
Right. I mean, I know I've thought that many times, like, something ain't right here because this is really difficult. So, yeah. So, okay, thank you guys for tuning in once again. Again, don't forget to like and share this with anybody you think it would be beneficial to, and come back to see us again in 2 weeks at 11 o'clock on Monday for another episode of Coach Talk. So thanks. See you later. Bye.